It's River to River from IPR News. I'm Ben Kiefer. Well, in roughly 70 days from now, Iowans will decide who governs this state, who represents it in the U.S. Senate, all four seats in the U.S. House, and which party controls the Republican legislature. Republicans have run for a decade. It's the first open race for governor in 20 years, the first open Senate race in 12, and the polling right now looks less like the state that voted for Donald Trump by 13 points 2 years ago, and more like the swing state Iowa used to be. So this hour, the two people whose job it is to win all of that, the chairs of Iowa's Democratic and Republican parties. They're each with us live for part of the hour. I'll put the same questions to many of the same questions, not all of them, to both of them, so you can judge the answers side by side. And by the way, the order in which I'm discussing these election things with them, it was determined by the flip of a coin. Later in the hour, Republican Jeff Kaufmann. But first, Rita Hart has chaired the Iowa Democratic Party since January of 2023 and was reelected last year to a term that runs through the 2028 cycle. She served 6 years in the Iowa Senate, was her party's nominee for lieutenant governor in 2018, and in 2020 came within 6 votes, 6 of winning Iowa's 2nd Congressional District. She's a retired teacher and a farmer from Clinton County. Rita Hart, welcome back to our program.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Iowa has the first open gubernatorial race in 20 years, and then, as I also mentioned, open U.S. Senate seat, first time in 12. How consequential, Rita Hart, would you say this midterm is for Iowa voters?
I would say this is an incredibly consequential election. Again, to your point, this is an opportunity that has not come around in a long, long time. And it comes on the heels of 10 years of one-party control in Iowa, when I think their record has not put us in a great place. And people, I think, are recognizing that the days when we were more purple, perhaps we had better policy, that when you have one party control for 10 years, that sometimes works against us as a state, especially when the party that's in control doesn't listen to the minority party and quits listening to the people. And as a result, we have a situation like we have now, where we've got our economic growth is at the bottom of the barrel, where we have problems with cancer rates, where our education standards have gone down below the middle mark, and are now in the last half of the country, where people are facing very high prices. And again, our healthcare situation is not healthy for a lot of Iowans. And so yeah, this is a very consequential election, and we're excited to have the kinds of candidates that have stood up and said, yes, it's time for change, and I think I can make a difference.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you noticed, more than noticed, that the Cook Political Report just moved the governor's race to lean Democrat and the Senate race to toss-up, both on the same day, and both, Rita Hart, moving in the Democrats' direction. What's your reasoning behind, or your explanation behind the shift? And do you believe it, or what's behind it? Or is this some kind of irrational exuberance on the part of the Democrats, you think?
No, I don't think it's irrational at all. I think it makes total sense that people are recognizing that things are going in the wrong direction in this state, and that perhaps we need a different kind of leadership. Iowa's ranked dead last in the nation in economic activity last year, and 48th in economic health. Personal income growth has trailed nearly every other state over the past 3 years. And we've got a budget deficit that's approaching $1.4 billion. along with the highest cancer growth rate in the country. And as I said before, our public schools have slid to the middle of the pack or lower as a result, and as people are noticing that they've diverted resources to a private school voucher program that has limited accountability. All these are decisions that have been made by a Republican Party led by a governor who is very unpopular in America, and it's not hard to see why. So it's not hard to see that. It's not hard to see that the momentum is definitely moving in the Democrats' direction.
Let's circle back to the economy, which you've mentioned. You've ticked off a number of reasons that the Democrats are running on their priorities in the state, Rita Hart. But this weekend, the president announced a 90-day tariff waiver on imported ground beef to bring prices down. Josh Turek called it, quote, another blow to Iowa farmers and beef producers. But so did Ashley Hinson, a Republican Trump endorsed, also Chuck Grassley. My question to you, Rita Hart, if Republicans are already breaking from Trump on this, doesn't that complicate the argument that a vote against Hinson is a vote against Trump?
I find that to defy logic, right? Why are they changing their tune? It's because they're seeing the same things we are. They're seeing the trends, they're seeing the polls, they're talking to voters, and voters are unhappy. Now, they should have been able to make better decisions, and they should have influenced the party, the majority party that they represent, so that these things are not happening. So no, I don't think that complicates it at all. It just recognizes that there's obviously a need for a check on on this Republican Party, who has not stuck up for Iowa, and instead is now scrabbling to find a place where they can say that they are looking out for Iowa interests when they have not been doing that.
Rita Hart, the same weekend, the U.S.-Canada trade talks collapsed. That's in our headlines today. 50% tariffs took effect on Canadian goods. Canada, Iowa's largest export market, I think, according to 2025 data at least, nearly $5 billion, 30% of the state's exports. Even a Republican former vice president, Mike Pence, said on CNN that a trade war with Canada is, quote, the last thing we need right now. Is trade the actual center of gravity in this election, do you think, more than any other single issue?
I think there are a lot of issues that are bothering people. I would say that the economy is always number one, and the fact is life is much more expensive for all of us right now as a result of President Trump's policies. And that really hits Iowa hard, the trade decisions that you just mentioned. Again, we've got our present Republican representatives who have been lockstep with President Trump as he has put these policies into effect, as he made these decisions around the tariffs. When it wasn't hard to predict what was going to happen, historically, we can always look and see that farmers have faced the brunt of tariff policies like this. And it just doesn't make sense to most people that we are in a war with Canada, for goodness sakes, when they have been such a reliable trade partner with us for how long. So these are poor decisions. This is poor leadership, and it reflects poor judgment on the part of our Republican representatives.
Mm-hmm. Nationally, for the first time in about a decade, more voters trust Democrats than Republicans on the economy. It's just a 3-point edge inside the margin of error. I guess a couple of questions on this. Can your party actually hold that through November? And, what is the affirmative Democratic economic message in Iowa in one sentence? The way a candidate would say it at a door, canvassing, for instance. What's the economic message in a tight little nutshell?
Boy, you know how to put out a question here, Ben. I would say that the economy is a lot of small decisions that result in priorities that really keep the average American in mind. And right now, priorities are on the corporations and on the ultra rich, and that is not resulting in good policy anywhere in the United States of America.
Let's switch to immigration, Rita Hart. Trump's strongest issue for 2 years. Democrats have never led on it, though the Republican advantage has really collapsed from 26 points in polling to just 2. Is closing that gap realistic for the Democrats? Or does that your party need a different message entirely for immigration? Many would say the Democrats really got it wrong in the last few years in terms of immigration. I don't know if you agree with that, but is there a recalibration, a different way forward on that issue for the Democrats here in Iowa?
Yeah, I don't think here in Iowa we've been happy with the national immigration policy for a long, long time. Again, people are hungry for leadership that is not so extreme. And yes, we can all agree that we need a strong national border and that we don't want criminals affecting the safety of our citizens here in America. But where the Republicans went wrong is they went too far. We also are a welcoming nation that was built on melting pot attitude, right? And we did make some mistakes, I think. And I think it's clear that we've got to have common sense immigration policy that keeps our borders strong, but also provides a way for immigrants to make their way legally into every state of the union when they are therefore able to hold down a job, raise their families, and contribute positively to American society. I think people are really hungry for that kind of common sense policy around a very complicated issue.
Okay. Rita Hart, thank you for joining us live this hour. We'll be back with Rita Hart to conclude this conversation. And then halfway through the program, we jump over to Jeff Kaufmann, chairman of the Republican Party of Iowa. And we're talking this hour as we're about 70 days away from midterm election day. We have some emails, questions for Rita Hart and Jeff Kaufmann. So stay tuned. After a break, we'll continue this conversation 70 days away from the midterm election with Iowa's party chairs. I'm Ben Kiefer. It's River to River from IPR News. Back with more River to River from IPR News. I'm Ben Kiefer. Today, Iowa's party chairs in the first half of the hour. We're splitting it right down the middle. Rita Hart, chair of the Iowa Democratic Party. Jeff Kaufmann coming up, chair of the Republican Party of Iowa. Rita Hart, let me throw a listener question to you. A listener wrote in to ask about Iowa's gubernatorial candidates and how they've distanced themselves from partisanship in their campaigning. Rob Sands stating at the Iowa State Fair that he previously registered to vote as an independent. Zach Lane stating that solving Iowa's cancer crisis is nonpartisan and is one of the reasons he entered the race. I saw an interview that Rob Sands gave to Fox News. Maybe you did too as well, Rita Hart, where he really criticized your party and didn't take the bait from the Fox News host to criticize Donald Trump even. What's your take on this move towards the nonpartisan campaigning on both of those gubernatorial candidates?
Yeah, I think that's listening to the voters and paying attention to the polls and seeing that most people are not feeling warm and fuzzy about either of the major political parties. And, they feel burnt by them. But I would tell you that Rob Sand is running an authentic campaign. He has always been this person who thinks independently, who is more interested in what is true and rather than who is red or who is blue, right? He is not into the labels. And so he's running an authentic campaign that I think is resonating with folks all across the state. I think that is why he's gotten so much crossover attention and support from independents and Republicans. It colors the way he runs his town halls, where he emphasizes that we're all in this together and that he intends to be a governor for all. And so that's a message that I think is very appealing to people, and it's a lesson that I think resonates with all of us.
Mm-hmm. You've mentioned Iowa's cancer rate. We talk about that a lot on Iowa Public Radio. So distressing. Iowa's cancer rate documented and discussed for years. What would Rob Sands' administration actually do differently that hasn't already been tried?
Well, I think that there are a lot of things that we've got to learn yet about why we have this high cancer growth rate. I think people have a lot of opinions as to what it's about, but I mean, there are some things that we know are true. You know, we know that Iowa is a very high state for radon. We know that alcoholism and obesity contribute to cancer rates. But the question that we have to dig in on is, what is unique about Iowa so that its rates are so much higher than other states who have similar issues, right? And so I think we have a lot to learn there. And I think that's what you can look forward to with a Rob Sand governorship, that he is going to find the truth. He's going to get to the facts. He's going to make sure that the people who are doing the research get the resources that they need, and that then we bring people together, again, on a very complicated issue, to come up with some policy that will actually make a difference. And that is not going to be motivated by special interests. And I think that's the difference that Rob Sand presents.
Mm-hmm. Rita Hart, I'm looking at my clock. We're running out of time. So I'm going to try to move through these questions quickly. And if you could be as concise as possible, we'll get to more of them. Let's move to those congressional for U.S. House races. Let's start with the Iowa 2nd District between newcomers Republican Joe Mitchell and Democrat Lindsey James. How competitive do you feel that race is for the Democrats there?
Well, again, the powers that be have just told us that it is more competitive than people have thought. Lindsey James is a great candidate. She's another authentic candidate. She's got a good experience. She's a caring person who is running a terrific campaign. So yeah, I think that's going to be a sleeper, but I think it's going to be very competitive.
Okay, staying on the U.S. House map, the 1st District. This is the third time Bohannon runs against Miller Meeks, losing last time by fewer than 800 votes. What's actually different about this third try for Bohannon?
Well, again, it's a clear decision that she took to run again, because she knows that what she's hearing at the doors is real, that people are shifting, that there's a change, that they are recognizing that we have to do something different to get different results. And that means electing Christina Bohannon in that district. She came the closest of any other race in the United States, and momentum is on her side. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go to the 3rd District. A quick comment on that. The Cook Political Report points to Iowa's least Republican district in the state, the 3rd. Zach Nunn won by 4 percentage points last time. Why is Sarah Trone Garriott the one who beats him, you think?
Well, I think that Zach Nunn has done himself a disservice by never having a public town hall since he was elected. And I hear from people that they are disappointed in the fact that he has not been receptive and open to his voters. And that's quite a contrast to Sarah Trone Garriott, who has a strong record of getting out and talking to voters and working hard in her district. And that's what she will carry into her position when she wins that congressional race.
Okay. Yep. Let's go to the statehouse quickly. Iowa Democrats, we know, had some national support to help to win special elections for the legislature in the past year. Do you think the momentum is there to win more House or Senate seats in our legislature here in Iowa for Democrats, particularly to break the Republican supermajority in the Iowa House? You think that's possible?
I think what's possible is that we are going to make some progress there. We're going to elect some new people to the state legislature, and there's several reasons for that. Just like we saw in the special elections last year when we surprised a lot of folks by overperforming by 20 points, we did that by having people step up to run as candidates who people can trust, who have a strong record of public service, who understand that they are in it to help others, not to help themselves. And then we added a great organizational effort along with the resources that it takes to win those elections. And that's what we're doing for these state house and state senate elections. We've got 58 organizers across the state working hard. We're working in a coordinated effort. We've got 34 offices open across the state. We've got tons of volunteers. We've got 99 county parties up and active with Democratic leadership. It's going to take a lot of work and a lot of conversations with folks to understand what their needs are and connect them with these candidates who are going to be working in their interest, not in other interests.
Be a little more specific. Which legislative races in the Iowa Democratic Party investing the most resources in the legislature? Name some races, please.
I think that we've got to defend Mike Zimmer and Caitlin Dray. They were both elected in these last special elections, and so the Republicans are going to want to make sure that they don't get through this midterm. But we are investing in them, and people. There's a couple races also in the Des Moines area that I think are going to get a lot of attention. We've got a new opening now that Senator Busolo dropped out. So we've got plenty of places to put our attention, and we're going to be seeing some surprise elections throughout the state.
We want to talk about the 2028 caucuses. The DNC approved its lineup. We have just 2 minutes left. I just want to remind her because we're being absolutely fair, splitting this hour down the middle. This lineup of the first 6 states approved by the DNC to hold a 2028 presidential caucuses, leaving Iowa off the list of those first 6 states. You said the party won't decide whether it will comply with the calendar until after the midterms. How might the election results influence your party's caucus planning?
I think that obviously, if we have a strong turnout and we elect a new Democratic governor and some congressional folks to Washington, D.C., if we have a strong overall result, that puts us in a position to say what I've been saying to the national Democrats all along. States like Iowa make a difference in our chances in 2028. If candidates can come here and run the kind of election process that puts them in front of the voters in a very real way, and then we win here in Iowa, if you can win here in Iowa, you can win anywhere in the country. I think that the DNC has made a mistake by ignoring the kinds of voters that exist in the small rural states in the center of the country. That we know that's been a criticism that we've received. And now by having this calendar that ignores states like Iowa, that I think is a huge mistake. And if we can show that we're winning here in Iowa, I think that's going to change the conversation.
Okay, thank you very much. Rita Hart, chair of the Iowa Democratic Party. Thank you for your time and your views, Rita Hart. Until next time.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate your attention to us. Thanks so much.
It's River to River from IPR News. I'm Ben Kiefer. Roughly 70 days from now, Iowans decide the governor's race, an open U.S. Senate seat, all 4 U.S. House seats, control of the State House that Republicans in our state have run for a decade. It's the first open governor's race in 20 years, the first open Senate race in 12. And you heard the news, Cook Political Report, just moving both of those top ticket races into the Democrats' direction. We just heard from Rita Hart, chair of the Iowa Democratic Party. And now we turn to the other side of the ballot. We have the chair of the Republican Party of Iowa, Jeff Kaufmann. He's chaired the party of Iowa since 2014. Before that, he served 8 years in the Iowa House, teaches history at a community college level, raises livestock. Many generations of his family has done that, in fact, in Cedar County. Jeff Kaufmann, welcome back to our program.
Well, thank you, Ben. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and we should note, people make the connection, most would, but just to mention your son, Bobby Kaufmann, the Iowa House Majority Leader. I'll just stick that in there for those who might not be aware of that. And I'll dive right into this. Iowa, the same question for Rita Hart I had. Iowa has the first open gubernatorial race in 20 years, this open U.S. Senate seat, first time in 12. How consequential would you say this midterm is for Iowa voters?
Well, very consequential. First of all, Ben, thanks for mentioning Bobby because he's much more popular than I am or was. But no, it's very consequential. I mean, it's historic just in terms of the open seats that are out there and the two top of our tickets in a midterm election. So very consequential. They're going to be close. We always knew that, and we're focused. This has the feel. It really does have the feel of a general election, because of the importance of these two top tickets, but also a variety of other campaigns this season.
Mm-hmm. What issues is the Iowa Republican Party prioritizing for this midterm election? We heard a number of issues from Rita Hart a few moments ago. I don't know how much of that conversation you heard before you sat down, but I wonder how much overlap there is. What do you see as the top issues?
Sure. Well, I think affordability would probably be the number one issue. That's based in terms of what we're hearing. It's in the past, it's always been in the top five, but I think it's risen. It's a little, where the economy and concerns about the economy stop, affordability starts. I think it's a spectrum, but certainly that we were happy to see the Axios report today. We had the largest 1 month drop in the inflation rate since 2020. So hopefully that's the beginning of making some significant progress there. Certainly our Republican candidates are going to be touting what's called kind of the nickname of the big, beautiful bill. That was cut along party lines. So we've got all of our Democratic candidates saying that was a bad vote. We got our Republican candidates talking about no taxes on tips and the senior tax break, decreased taxes on overtime, and then most importantly of all, the largest tax cut in that big beautiful bill, aside from all the the wealthy get the tax cut rhetoric that we hear every 2 years, is that the largest cut was for families that are making between 15 and 30,000. So we actually have some issues where there was up or down votes that our folks are going to be talking about. I think we have to continue to talk about the issue of Iran and making sure that a rogue terrorist state does not have access to nuclear weapons, and why sitting down and having a conversation in and of itself is not going to cut it. And then I think we need to remind people, especially since we have a lot of the Democrats having political born-again experiences and moderating where they were 2 and 4 years ago, about the drop, the tremendous drop to almost nothing in terms of illegal immigration, especially criminals. And that would be among that group, not that group, but among that group. And also at the state level, clearly what's risen to the top is cancer rates, water quality. There's going to be, I tell people, there's going to be something done, I think, bold next year, just simply because we've got everyone talking about it. There's going to be a huge expectation there when Zach Lane prevails.
Mm-hmm. The Cook Political Report just moved the governor's race from toss-up to lean Democrat, the Senate race from lean Republican to toss-up. That happened both on the same day. Oh, that's a real signal, isn't it? That's a nonpartisan outlet. How do you explain that?
Well, the Des Moines Register poll the weekend for the election was also supposedly nonpartisan, and that was grossly inaccurate.
Let me, if I can stop you there, Jeff, because I disagree with your premise. That was one pollster, one survey, days before the election. Today, we're citing, and the Cook Political Report doesn't cite one poll. It cites, Emerson, Cook, New York Times, CNN, and Fox. These are four independent outlets that all agree. You're disputing what the Cook Political Report is looking for as an aggregate of all polls?
No, you missed my point. First of all, I didn't hear you challenge Rita Hart, but that's okay. Ben, we can handle your follow-up questions. No, my point was that polling, any poll, regardless of its genesis, is not necessarily equal reality. That was my point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we're talking about an aggregate of polls. Are you disputing that?
Correct. But my point was not the validity of the Cook report. My point was that polling can be inaccurate, and so polling does not look towards my strategy. I'm hoping we don't take up my entire time, Ben, with you challenging my responses. Since
I'm just asking what I see as reasonable questions. We have 30 seconds left. Is Zach Lane ahead in any survey that you trust right now?
There are surveys, polling. I shouldn't say surveys, but there are polls where it is within the margin of error. Those are not public polls. Certainly, then you're going to cast doubt on that. But I'm hoping then that I'm going to look back over. I'm hoping you also challenge Rita Hart in some of her answers.
Yes, Jeff, and I hope you'll be there after the break. Just having a fair conversation. Back with more of River to River from IPR News. I'm Ben Kiefer, about 70 days before our midterm election day, with Jeff Kaufmann, chairman of the Republican Party of Iowa. Jeff, I wanted, with so many things to talk about, but I wanted to also, resolve this little issue that you think I didn't push back on Rita Hart, and I want to give you a chance to respond. Let me just, one instance that comes to mind. I named immigration as an issue that the Republicans obviously got wrong in recent years. She admitted to mistakes by the Democratic Party. There's your one example of pushback. Go review that.
That's a false comparison, Ben, but you're taking more of my time again. So
go ahead.
Like some more questions, please.
Yeah, okay, more questions. This weekend, your Senate nominee, Ashley Hinson, whom Trump has endorsed, publicly broke with him. He called his new 90-day beef tariff. She called his new 90-day beef tariff waiver a bad idea at the state fair. Repeated it on social media. Said it again on Fox News on Sunday. Chuck Grassley also criticized it. Is that a problem for you, or that exactly what a good candidate should do in a tough race?
Oh, I think it's perfectly fine to have a conversation, to have a debate on specific policies. I think it's actually healthy for the party. And here's the irony: if Josh Turek would have been the senator at that time, if he missed 60% of his votes in the U.S. Senate, like he did the state Senate, he wouldn't have been there to vote either way anyway.
Mm-hmm. The president says lifting these tariffs will lower ground beef prices for consumers. Ashley Hinson, Representative Hinson, and Iowa's cattlemen say it undercuts ranchers who are trying to rebuild the herd that's the smallest size in roughly 75 years. You are a livestock farmer yourself, Jeff Kaufmann. Who's right here?
Well, obviously, you've got two sides of this. I think the consumers and affordability issues are important, and so is the health of our cattle industry. Look, there's a macro issue here involving affordability, and then I would add into that the whole issue of tariffs, which has people in the Republican Party on both sides. I don't think there is a clear right or wrong, and I'm not going to try to force fit just for the sake of an election. Is it 100% or 0%? We're having a conversation about this. I think affordability is a valid point, and I think Hinson and Grassley made a valid point.
Yeah. Canada, Iowa's largest export market, 30% of the state's total goods exported, nearly $5 billion back in 2025. Jeff Kaufmann, what does a trade war with our biggest trading partner actually do to Iowa's economy?
Well, back in 2016, I know a lot of people were trying to question the tariff policy of the president, and especially the Democrats were really working on farmers and trying to move farmers to a situation where they were not supportive of the president anymore. Farmers understand, rural Iowa understands that there is a huge disparity in terms of the fairness of our trade. There is always going to be some short-term pain in order to rectify years and years and years. And it was bipartisan ignoring of that trade differential. Possibly, there's definitely some political disadvantages here, but I think the president has been consistent in what he's trying to do both in and out of campaign years.
Yeah, but nationally, for the first time in about a decade, more voters trust Democrats than Republicans on the economy. Why is the trust slipping now on your party's watch? Is it just what you just outlined? We've got to look at the long term, and not enough of Republicans are looking in the long term, just short term.
Well, look, there are historical trends in a midterm. The president, the party of the president. You know this. I think there's only two exceptions. There is always a microscope and an extra critical analysis of the president's party. That's why there's always headwinds in a midterm election. I think we're seeing this at this moment in time. The president's going to continue to make his case. And our candidates are going to continue to analyze that.
Mm-hmm. Immigration, you mentioned it earlier. It's the one issue where Republicans still lead nationally. But that margin, Jeff Kaufmann, has collapsed from, 26 points to 2 from the survey that I saw. Is that crackdown on immigration still an asset to Republicans, or has it become a liability?
Well, I think we have to remind Iowans and Americans in general, the mess that we had. And it's a little rich that Rita's doing a mea culpa for her party when 2 years ago she was adamantly and very energetically defending the Biden administration, and as were most of these candidates that are pushing back now. So talk about putting your finger in the wind and testing the polling. But I think we have to remind people that what we had was absolutely untenable and not acceptable. Mm-hmm. And we know what Democratic immigration policy looks like. We know that. We know what the rate is at this particular point. I still feel confident there. I don't negate your point that in terms of the erosion of the polls, but I still would defend where the real position is for the Republicans, as opposed to this, once again, election time political born again experience that we're seeing. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you could cast it another way and say Rita Hart is admitting a mistake that the Democrats make. And let me just turn that around for you. Republicans in Iowa have been in the party in power, trifectorate there for 10 years. Will you admit to a Republican mistake? The polling seems...
Well, I'm sure.
Yeah, go ahead. Be specific.
Yes. And I'm sure she'll appreciate you pointing that out in her wonderful interview you had with her, Ben. But what I will point out is I lived in 4 years of a Democratic trifecta that does not get brought up in this conversation of the Republican trifecta. And there were all kinds of misdirections. So no, the Iowa immigration policy and the stance of where our candidates are at right now in Iowa, I would back them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so good. If you've just joined us, Jeff Kaufmann with me, live chairman of the Republican Party of Iowa. And let's go back to what you mentioned earlier and what Rita Hart mentioned too, and what Iowans have on their minds. The second highest cancer rate in Iowa in the country, one of only 3 states where it's rising while the national rate falls. Such an issue, especially for the governor's race. Zach Lane supporting banning mRNA vaccines entirely. A new study this month finding mRNA vaccines help prevent recurrence in high-risk melanoma patients. Sand's campaign is using that against him directly. Both are in favor of cleaning up our water. Whatever's behind these rising cancer rates, could be radon, could be alcohol, could be what's in our water. Is that a real vulnerability, or is Lane's water quality argument enough of an answer? Can we say we've got a vaccine out there, but we're not going to use it? We're going to ban them?
Well, first of all, it's interesting. The premise of your question is to already attack our candidate. I also did not hear that in your cancer question to Rita Hart. So this is
we support evidence-based things, and that's what I'm putting out to you, Jeff Kaufmann.
Well, what you're putting out to me is very biased questions. I assume what would happen, and I'll go ahead and answer these. First of all, Ben, putting the issue of cancer rates on the table was a signature issue of Zach Lane. Zach Lane is talking about early detection. He's talking about water quality. He's talking about the ag sector and buy-in to that ag sector. I think he is prepared and ready and has shown that he has an independent mindset on all of these issues. I'm guessing if you would have done your homework on Sam, there's probably some issues he's bringing up that you could have initiated the question with Rita in terms of a negative light, which you chose not to do.
Mm-hmm. Let's turn to the State House. Which State House races, Jeff Kaufmann, do you see as most consequential this November in order to hold on to the GOP's Iowa House majority?
Well, I don't think anybody believes that our majority is in danger in the House or the Senate. Super majorities.
I meant to say supermajority. Sorry, go ahead.
In this, I think we're going to be defending, we take nothing for granted. So we're going to make sure, and there's going to be a lot of activity in those rural districts that are overwhelmingly red. The Republicans have a unique and a positive problem here, and that is we have a Republican representative representing a part of every single county, all 99 in the state. The Democrats can be a little bit more choosy since they have a super minority at this particular point. But certainly we're going to make sure we defend rural Iowa. The suburbs are always going to be a place where we are going to have to defend and restate our case. So places like the Des Moines metro area, for example, we'll be very active there. And then we have some pickup opportunities too. I'm certainly not going to share those because obviously, there's an element of surprise here in campaign strategy. I think the Speaker, Majority Leader, would give me a call right after this interview if I was. Rita Hart named some races that they have their eyes on the Democratic side in the legislature. You're not going to do the same for us? Well, again, what a premise, man! This is quite the interview. But yes, we're going to those two special elections. In the metro area, we're going to be looking at, we've got a great candidate up there in Booslo's seat, et cetera. Yes. Mm-hmm. But I appreciate you making sure that I bring those out. This is as biased as you've ever been. But go ahead, I'll keep answering them.
I'm going to disagree with that, and listeners can make their listeners can make up their own minds. Let's move along and not.
Yes, they will. But you're not going to shut me down by having the last word on that. This has been a biased interview from my perspective.
Listeners can judge that. Jeff Kaufmann.
Yes, they can, but my judgment is this has been a biased interview. That's my judgment I'm articulating.
We got it. Okay, let's talk about congressional races in Iowa. Let's talk about congressional races. Let's go to Iowa's 2nd district between newcomers Republican Joe Mitchell and Democrat Lindsey James. Talk about that. What will it take for the Republicans to win that race?
Well, I mean, right now, it looks like Joe has momentum. We've got Lindsey James, who cannot literally come up with an adequate explanation for why she missed 50% of her votes. That's pretty stunning. That essentially there's no excuse for missing 50% of the votes. I think ultimately that's going to matter. Joe also has an expertise in housing that I think you had asked me about, or we had talked about earlier, the affordability issue. Housing is certainly a significant element of that, both at the federal and the state level. And Joe has a great deal of experience in both of those.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk about the 4th district. Chris McGowan, Democrat David Dawson. What do you see in that race? That's Iowa's most Republican district. Any concerns there?
Oh, absolutely none. Although we are going to spend and target a great deal of resources in those districts, because obviously we have to run up the totals there to counteract areas like Johnson County and Lynn County, where it doesn't matter who's running on the Democratic side, they're going to win overwhelmingly. We have to do that in areas of the state where Republicans have an advantage.
Mm-hmm. Do you predict Republicans holding all 4 U.S. House districts? Which one would be the one to go if one were to go, would you say?
I would never answer a question like that, or I should be fired as the party chair. But believe me, we don't gerrymander here. And I remember Democrats for years and years said if Republicans have the trifecta, we're going to have gerrymandered districts. And we didn't. That, again, a false alarm. And so we're always going to have, regardless of how red the state is or blue the state is, and even with our 175,000 Republican voter advantage in the state, we are still going to have extremely tight races there. So, I mean, it's going to be nail biter all the way to the end in the 1st and the 3rd district. We know that. And I've stated that multiple times, even before this heated up in the election.
Mm-hmm. Jeff Kaufmann, let's pivot to what was it, the 2028 caucuses. You were reappointed in October of last year to chair the RNC's Presidential Nominating Process Committee. Your second time in that role after also chairing it for the 24 cycle, I believe. How do you think Iowa has continued to be a proving ground for testing Republican candidates?
Well, I mean, I can only comment on the Republican Party. And the Democratic Party, obviously, the national folks have turned their backs. And our state party, Rita can give all the speeches that she wants, but the bottom line is actions are what matter. And waiting until after an election to stand up for your state is a dereliction of duty of epic proportions. And I had a great relationship with the 6 Democratic chairs that I've served with before. So that's not a blanket partisan statement. Mm-hmm. But for the Republican Party, the bottom line is if you want to look a 5th grader in the eye and tell them that they have a chance of becoming president of the United States, any person, whether it be Jimmy Carter, Barack Obama, or Donald Trump, it's a bipartisan statement that I'm making here. And that is you have to start in a place like Iowa. And as far as Iowa being not diverse enough, I mean, Barack Obama, we made the Democrats in this state, made Barack Obama, and many of them are very proud of that. Quite frankly, I'm proud of that. I wish the Republican would have beat him in the general, but the fact that Iowans proved once again, they did it with Ted Cruz, they did it with Barack Obama, that the character of the person is more important than the color of their skin. That's something that we can be proud of. The Republicans are going to go at it no matter what. We're going to have it, and I'm hoping the Democrats will push back. I've seen absolutely no sign whatsoever that the Iowa Democratic Party is going to do any more than woe is me, and that's not going to get it done. Not when you got a national party that is trying to undercut your state as much as they are. Okay,
less than 2 minutes in this. 2-minute warning in this ball game, so to speak, Jeff. I want to ask you this. So the Iowa GOP and the RNC sued in July to reinstate signature verification on absentee ballots. A judge blocked that same requirement in 2019, citing a real risk of inconsistent enforcement county to county. What's actually changed since then that fixes the specific problem? Does that a ruling come in time to be enforced before early voting starts in the middle of October?
Let me answer the second part of your question first. The honest answer is I don't know. It depends on when that's decided, how fast the court system acts on that. Obviously, what has changed in the paperwork is the Iowa legislature has spoken 2 more times in terms of Iowa law that has made that injunction more difficult to enforce. It was a liberal judge, obviously, and so there's some politics at work there. And I would say the same thing if it was a conservative judge making a conservative ruling. But look, if you look, one thing I can be sure of, we talked about polls at the beginning, and that is if you look at at polling, whether it be verification of our system of mail-in balloting, voter identification, or some of the nonsense, not in Iowa, but some of the nonsense, California, and the weeks that it takes to add up, the people, even Democrats, are on our side in terms of making sure we have secure elections and make sure whoever says they're voting are actually the ones doing the voting.
Jeff Kaufmann, always nice to have a vigorous back and forth with you, chairman of the Republican Party of Iowa. Thank you so much, sir.
I thank you. I was hoping you'd be a little bit more neutral, but you're
all right. I'm Ben Kiefer. It's River to River from IPR News.